CNC beats IRS wage levies and threats. It trumps IRS wage levies and threats. Now, currently, Mark owes $12,000 in IRS delinquency, and more penalties and interest will be added to that over the next 5 years. And 5 years remains on the statute of limitations on collection. He's also currently incapable of paying anything toward his delinquency and doesn't have anything of value that the IRS would want him to sell in order to come up with any kind of money as a payment against his delinquency. He lives extraordinarily modestly to provide the basics for his family. He must. That's the circumstance. The problem is that every dollar he brings home from work is needed to meet his basic living expenses. Unfortunately, he just learned that the IRS has actually followed through with its threats and levied his paycheck. He was also told that the IRS levy on his wages will continue until his IRS delinquency is paid off in full or until the IRS releases the levy. He didn't act before, and he has to act now. The most frightening thing is that after the IRS takes what it wants from his check, there's very little, meaning virtually nothing, left over for him and his family. Again, he must act now. He should immediately call the telephone number that appears on the IRS levy and demand that the levy be released. He should request that he be determined to be currently not collectible. He will have to provide financial information to demonstrate that he and his family are living in hardship conditions, or again, that the levy itself has caused those conditions. His preparation should include his detail of all his income and expenses on a monthly basis. And he needs to be sure not to miss anything, not to miss any of his expenses, as so many people actually do. Yes, he can address the levy in this way. Now, even though he should have addressed it before the levy issued, he has an opportunity to do it now. And his hardship condition trumps that levy. It means that that levy must be released. He has to keep in mind that the IRS collection machine representative may say that he has to enter into an installment payment plan and may dream up a number that sounds okay, but that's not what the law is. If he demonstrates a hardship, he's not obligated to enter any kind of installment payment plan. And even if he has income above the hardship level, he has to have a payment plan that takes into account his actual financial capacity to pay, not something that sounds good. That's why we have digital tax attorney IRS Black Magic payment plans. Get that set and understand all those rights. And that's also why we have digital tax attorney Stop IRS Levies and Threats, because there's a number of things that are available both before levy, at the time it's levied, and after levy to a taxpayer who's trying to get his life back in order. Now, he has to be approaching these things and looking at things as they actually are and evaluating them in terms that would be best for him. That means that if the IRS representative is resisting him, if he doesn't want to follow through with what he thinks is reasonable, he needs to ask for an appeal. And that appeal will give him an enriched body of rights, plus an appeals officer who's not a trained IRS collection agent. In other words, he's there to solve problems and solve them fairly. And that's available to him even though the levy has issued and is currently in place. Recognize that hardship means that it is a destructive environment. It's just no longer a collection issue. Rather, the means of collection is destroying, as the law considers it, an individual's financial life or an individual's family financial life. And that's just not going to be tolerated. After that levy is addressed, then he can take steps to look at the details of his continuing delinquency and set up alternatives and choose from the alternatives that are available to him to eventually work in the direction to reach a total resolution to his underlying delinquent problem with the IRS. But first and foremost, he has to address and resolve the IRS levy so it is removed. And then he can take the steps to address the remaining and the continuing IRS delinquency. He needs to put his financial and personal information together. He needs to put his intent down in writing, and he can talk to us during his consultation with us and ask any questions that he has too, and we will provide him with the guidance that he needs in order to formulate a compellingly persuasive presentation so that he can start putting this horror behind him. And that's the key. Thank you.